Hey guys, another disclaimer. My internet decided to cut out during this Retrogade as well, so you'll notice probably a change in topic as we go along with it. So, for the Retrogade episode 6 with Sage Hinata and MattBigFat, there will be like a slight interruption in the middle of the video because of internet dismissal. So, there's your warning, there's your disclaimer. It does not impede on the podcast itself, and thank you. Let's move on to the podcast right now. Fixed it. There we go. Sorry, messing with new technology again. It happens. Ew. Messing with the new technology today, it happens. So as you can see, all of the frames are out of focus. One sec. And sorry, new bear technology. Trying to get it working. Boom. Hello. Hi guys. Hito Retro Gaming here. How are you doing today? Where are my bear ears? I just realized that. Hi, welcome to the Retrogade, everyone. We are doing good today. I am Hito Retro Gaming. We had some slight tech issues. Sage, thank you for the tier 1 subscription. Welcome to the Retroites royalty now. But first, before we go into this, today we got a very special stream today for our Retrogade as we go into our classic RPGs. We'll discuss a few of them along the way, and we'll be ranking them by our top 10. So I guess this is where things are going to get really, really crazy, because from JRPGs to Western JRPGs to tactical RPGs to other types of RPGs I can possibly think of, we have a lot. So considering that the title and genre itself has its own categories and its own amalgamation of categories, it's a lot to go into. So for our first guest, who's joining us here, because we're never alone on these streams, our first guest is no one, because technically speaking, I forgot to switch the cams again. One sec. We are good. I'm alive. There we go. We got Sage. Sage, there you go. You're on the feed.
Hello. Welcome on in.
So Sage, introduce yourself to the lovely peeps.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sage Hinata. And I play a mixture of RPGs as well as community games such as Town of Salem. And yeah, just other than that, just giving off wholesome, cozy vibes, guys.
Right on. All right, so our next person that we're going to introduce is Les Matt, Les Big, Les Fats. So MattBigFat will be on right now. Let us put you live on the feed. There we go.
All right, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, well, hey there, Retroites. MattBigFat, variety streamer from New York City extraordinaire here. How do I start off? JRPGs have been a huge part of my life, so I'm honored to be here to talk about them. Anything else I do regards all sorts of video games, which I love to death.
Listen, RPGs are one of those games that you don't have to be yourself for that second, and you could do whatever you want. Well, at least to what the game limitations is, especially in classic RPGs.
Indeed.
But yeah, so today we're going to go over a few of our favorite RPGs in general. We're going to go over probably some of the influential ones as well. I'm going to start with some very important... And we're also going to talk about RPG moments too. RPG moments that probably got you into the game a little bit more, got you hooked. So the first question to ask is, what is a JRPG that got you into the genre? Well, not just a JRPG, just what is an RPG that got you into the drama of role-playing games?
Okay, I can start out if you don't mind.
All right.
The game I was just putting on the list we were working on in the background, the absolute JRPG that, well, it is a JRPG that got me into the genre, was Tales of Symphonia. Circa released July 2004 in America. That game changed my entire life. I wasn't able to play it until around Christmas 2004, but that game changed my entire life. From then on, the only RPG experience I had before that game was Pokemon, if you even count that.
Yeah, we do.
Paper Mario 64, and Final Fantasy 10. And the genre as a whole just never like truly like stuck with me per se. It was fine. I liked all three of those games just fine, but I never really thought about JRPGs like separate from a genre because I was still young at the time. I was 13 in 2004.
Mm.
Then Tales of Symphonia comes out, blows my mind with its battle system and its pretty damn good story at the time. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I want more of this. So I go out seeking the genre itself, and I just start pretty much my path journey right there.
All right. Sage, what about you?
For me, the one game that got me into RPGs, JRPGs would have to be Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember popping that sucker for the first time. It got me into Final Fantasy in general, and it got me into just RPGs in general. Just that opening cutscene, that classic V, that cutscene, and that got me into the game. That got me sucked into the game, and then I started searching for more stories. Such as that one. Like that hooked me and I wanted more.
Well, that's actually pretty awesome. All right, so as a favorite, as I've said many times on this channel already, my favorite is Earthbound. I love Earthbound with a passion because one, quirky enemies, but then when you think about it when you're older, the quirky enemies are just the fears of a child in some case. Even though sometimes it's just you're fighting a cup of coffee or a clock or a sign or a random car or random ladies on the street, which I have dubbed the name Karen for, or Susan, depending on which one that we do, because they always try to hit you with bags of clothes that they just got from the sale rack. Either which way. The game was a very strange one altogether, but I fell in love with the strange RPG genre because one, the enemies are weird. Two, the enemies you could get a laugh off of. And three, it's just essentially just it's so good. It's like a feel good moment of like playing the strange RPG genre with all the strange enemies that you could never imagine what they were. Heck, Amori introduced a literal enemy that was just bad dial-up. Just bad dial-up. I love that. Like it was called.
I actually lived that day. Damn.
It's like bad dial-up and the 404 error screen. So you can only imagine how funny it is to do like play against something that like I hate that error 404 screen. I get to beat it up. Awesome. So that's kind of how it goes right there. It's like, okay, I understand the strange RPG genre. I love it, and I hope to find more like it. That's why I like Earthbound a lot, because it inspired many of the strange RPG genre where you're fighting random everyday things aside from just the crazy aliens taking over the town or rare dark enemies coming in. You're fighting all the strange enemies that just come in. So essentially, that's always a good thing to do. That's why I enjoy the strange RPG genre.
All right.
Which, speaking of genres, what are your favorite genres of RPG?
Well, I'm just gonna be upfront and upfront and person about it. I guess that would just be JRPG. I like the Japanese side of RPGs more than the Western side. If I were to really choose one, gun to my head, etc. But Western RPGs are no slouch themselves. I do have a few favorite Western RPGs in my life, but I would definitely go towards JRPGs. And if I really had to choose, I do prefer real-time JRPGs over turn-based ones like Persona 5 per se. But of course, turn-based ones, of course, have their place in the world.
Mm.
The genre wouldn't be the genre without them.
All right. And yep.
For me, I look for anything that has a good story to it. Whether it's RPG or JRPG, if the story hooks me in, I am in for the long haul. Like one of my even down like I consider an RPG anything where you are role playing as something or someone else. And in many ways, the online role playing game known as Warframe can be counted on this. So that's my thing. Like if I'm playing as something else, it's that escapist fantasy basically. And if the story gets me in, if I'm enjoying it, that's really what keeps me into it.
Funny enough, you said Warframe on that one because I was actually going to ask that as a next question. So, along with the categories you said, a bigger genre that we go into is something called MMOs. MMO.
We've been waiting.
All right, thanks guys. We got it up and running again. Like the whole thing shut down. I was just like, well then.
I was just saying it was the moment I was saying you were buffering.
All right, hopefully that does not happen again. I wonder if anyone's in chat right now. I doubt it because that kind of happened.
Give yourself a few moments. Like I said, I've literally had a conversation last night with a friend of mine who had legitimately the same thing happen 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Like it upset her quite a bit.
No, but here's the thing. I'm getting tired of Spectrum doing this. They do it during the most inconvenient times. This is actually why I don't stream at night anymore, to be honest.
I hear you. Well, see, I had to upgrade.
Now they popped your booty in the midday.
Yeah, I had to upgrade my megabytes per second. Because for a while, I was having these same issues.
That's just it. I have gigabit internet. So I'm like, what are you... I'm like, what...
That's so weird.
I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, is there like maintenance happening? Is there this happening? I'm like, what are you doing?
What kind of scam are you running?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, and the worst part is like when you got a really great stream going on. I mean, you feel like everything's going right, and then all of a sudden you see internet access thing turn to the famous world searching thing where it's like no internet access found.
Okay.
And then everything goes down.
Yeah. All right. So we're back online, guys. Sorry about that. Spectrum can really eat one today because this is why I don't stream at night, because they decide to do their maintenance at like 12 and I'm like, okay, that's fine. You could do your maintenance at 12. I'm not going to stream around there anymore. And even then, it's just like, hey, so we know you stopped streaming at a certain time. Let's just fuckle you a little bit. So
I hate that.
Listen, at this point, what else can we do, right? So anyway,
I'm giving it a few moments, let people refresh their screens.
Yeah.
And I'm also gonna do the same thing on my end, so that way it counts.
I just want to make.
I do know that. Yeah, I'm just making sure that I refresh my screen, just so that way it counts on my end.
No problem. We're back. We're back again because internet was like, "Hey, hi, I want to hurt you a little bit," and I'm just like, "No, please don't. Have mercy on my soul. Have mercy." All right. So back to what I was saying when it came to RPGs, because we went over favorite genres, and then you brought up Warframe, which went into MMOs. So I was gonna ask, what is actually one of your favorite MMOs, since it's a very popular title of RPG?
Well, I wonder. Well, if you guys don't already know by the background, Final Fantasy 14.
Final Fantasy 14.
Nice.
Yes. Final Fantasy 14 is one of my favorites. I am quite obsessed, because to the point where I've collected Final Fantasy 14 items as part of my collection, and it goes for a great background.
It does. Honestly, I actually beta tested 14. I stopped playing it though, so that was kind of like, well, it's fun, but yeah. I don't know why I couldn't get into it so much, but then I think it's because I at that time I had low motivation to play any game, so I was like, I should really retry this, but at the same time, if I get sucked in, I'm not gonna get out.
For me, Final Fantasy 14, I keep getting sucked in. That's the thing. I'll stop. It's one of those games where I'll take a break for a while and then I'll get back in. And I'll get sucked in for about another few months.
That sounds
And then
about
I'll
right.
take a break because something else will distract me. It's like it's one of those little things where you just get distracted by other things that are interesting.
My
But
experience with MMOs is a little less. To be honest, MMO isn't really a genre I jive with. I've only played a couple of them in my life. I played a lot of Phantasy Star Online too, although not the official American release that just happened recently. We actually used to play the fan-translated version on the Asia servers, me and my old homies, back in 2015. But we still had fun with it. But I actually haven't played the official American release. Funnily enough, I don't have the time and maybe some slight waning interest, but it's not a big deal. The one actually MMO I was telling Sage about while we were offline, it was called Rakion Chaos Force. It was back in 2006. It's actually a very obscure MMO RPG. It's actually Korean made. I used to play that during high school. That's the one I did spend a lot of time in during my high school days. But that's just about it.
all
It's
right.
like a battle arena MMO because you actually PvP a lot in that game.
Gotcha. I guess one MMO I did enjoy a couple of times, which funny enough, this actually counted as an MMO. Remember Gaia Online?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I was obsessed with it when I was in high school. A friend of mine got me into it. I'm like, wait a minute. I see bear paws, bear hats, and bear shoes. Let's do this. And for like a year and a half, I was just strutting around in bear gear and learning magic and doing all kinds of dumb things. But then have another MMO.
Well, and actually, yeah. And speaking of MMOs and Final Fantasy, I actually have Final Fantasy 14 to thank for the origin of my name. The name Sage Hinata was born in Eorzea.
Ooh.
And it was just one of those things. It was just one of those things where when you pick up a name, it just sticks.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I know that feeling. But overall, when it comes to MMOs, I essentially enjoy them a lot, and hopefully we can get something that will last for at least 10 years, which Final Fantasy 14 is closer to 10 years, at least. I think just 3 more years they'll be in there at least, with just 3 more years.
Which, by the way, you could play for free up to the Heavensward expansion, up to level 60.
And then you have to pay. Then then Square Enix is gonna come in here with a giant hammer and like, okay, so you're either gonna pay or you're gonna pay with those kneecaps. So it's just it's just the normal stuff. All right, so we went into MMOs. So another question is, what is one of your favorite RPG moments?
RPG moments.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Ooh.
Or correction, I can rephrase this. What is one that makes you go back to that moment? What is one that immediately comes to the top of your head when you think of it, when you think about your game? Manx, thank you for the raid.
Oh, thank goodness! I need a second to think.
Thank you for the raid, Manx.
There's one moment in my mind about that. Damn.
How's it going, Manx a lot? How are you guys doing today? We're talking about classic RPGs. We're killing it.
Welcome on in. Thanks a lot.
Oh, just got started. We started at 12, but then the internet was like, "Hey, I broke my leg for a second. I need to like." I'm just like, the internet broke its leg on the way over here and was like, "Oops, sorry, we dropped all of the cake, all of the pizzas."
Well, favorite RPG moments. There's been so many.
Oh,
But yeah, there's been so many. But the one, and it's a recent one. It actually, it's a very recent one. It's only been out for about a couple of years, but it got me into that series, and it was the first time where I about teared the hell up and got me obsessed with little figures like this. And that would be Persona 5.
Which moment, though? Are you
yeah,
talking?
I was gonna say which moment in particular.
Yeah, the moment in particular has to be Futaba's story. Like when you first meet Futaba and you first encounter it and understand her story and the heartbreaking moments that she had to go through, and it related to me a lot because I have no life outside my computer room, and and like especially because Futaba was for the longest moments in her life, she blamed herself for her own mother's death to the point where she ended up needing saved by the Phantom Thieves in her own palace. And when you realize that she was basically manipulated to believing that it was her fault to the point where she believed it herself. It was it was a moment where I teared up and I wanted to kick some ass for this little waifu.
There we go. I do not know why I have. I was looking around for. I don't know. Where did my nut button go? Oh, there it is. Okay, I got you. There we go.
we got to hear the
Whew.
famous nut button. In the
We do.
listen,
I was looking around for it earlier.
listen. We got to hear the famous nut button when we have Matt here, because if we don't, something's going on. Like
All
why?
right, that was a very good moment, Sage. I would like to pick a Persona 5 moment too. That again, it's a phenomenal game. We'll get to that later when we're doing our favorite RPG lists in order. But I'm gonna buck that trend a little. I'm gonna list two small moments from two Tales games I always think back to: Tales of Exilia and Tales of Symphonia's sequel, actually Tales of Symphonia 2. I'll start with the older example. Tales of Symphonia 2 is a 2008 game. The main character named Emil has a very emotional talk with his. This is near the end of the game, and by the way, these two moments do have spoilers, but I'm sorry. It is what it is. It's at the end of Tales of Symphonia 2. Emil, the main character, is knowing he's gonna have to sacrifice himself. He has one last talk with his aunt and uncle. Now, the key thing over the game is he and his aunt and uncle don't get along. They're a little on the strict and slightly abusive side. Now, and he has this really well written emotional talk with him where they sort of come to terms and see a little eye to eye before Emil unfortunately has to sacrifice himself at the end of the game. It's quite sad. He has one last chance to touch closer with his aunt and uncle, and it's a very powerful scene. It's about 5 minutes of dialogue. It's great. The second scene also involves a lot of dialogue, and this is also spoiler in Tales of Exilia. The classic JRPG trope of having a party member sort of betray you or act out and have to fight him happens in Tales of Exilia. It's in Jude, the main character's beginning of the fourth act of the story. One of the traders of the group named Alvin is being paid to hunt down Jude and kill him. So Jude is still in a state of depression at the time because the secondary main character Mila died. She's not off for good, spoilers, but she died at the moment. So in a time skip before the fourth act, Jude's going through a bunch of depression, and and he's only saved by his best friend when she dives in front of a gunshot. Alvin uses guns in the JRPG mechanics. It dives in front of a gunshot in front of Alvin, not permanently killing her off, but still. So Jude wakes the fuck up, one-on-ones the guy, and finally breaks out of his depressive state and understand. This is the culmination of his character the entire game, of learning what he's fighting for, to put in slightly memey terms. Those two tail scenes really stick out to me very powerful because they deal with two different emotions.
Mm. Uh, one game that I can think of immediately when it comes to remembering moments, Dark Cloud 2 was actually a really good game, and it's very underrated, honestly. So half the time I wish we could just get like
Ooh,
more
good choice.
more Dark Cloud series, because here's the thing, both of the Dark Clouds don't really have anything in common with each other. They were both different areas of game, so we could easily get like a more modern third game now if we think about it. But one
There's so
that like there's so much
go ahead.
potential.
Yeah,
There's so much potential.
yeah.
But one moment that sticks out to me is when you fight Gaspard for the second time. You find out that it pretty much it's near the end of the game, where when you fight Gaspard, you find out that he's actually a villain worth actually being sympathetic for, because he was working with someone who essentially used him because basically he threw a tantrum like a child when he found out that his beloved is gone. It was someone that took care of him. It was someone that basically was a mother to him. You also find out another thing, that mother actually is related to the main character, Max. Funny story on that. When the main villain Griffin loses his mother, quote unquote, not his mother, someone who took care of him, someone he cared about a lot, he kind of let the dark matter take over him, and he went to the point where he started plucking out the origin zones of the original Guardians, like Jurak of the Forest. You have literally the Luna Laboratory getting taken away, Gondor's Workshop taken away, Balance Valley taken away. He literally goes to the past and plucks out their origin zones, which is something that makes all of the places in the future thrive. Griffin is from the future. He tried to literally get rid of the future by decimating the past, which he does all of this. You find out that Holly, the caretaker, really just disappeared after all that, after the disease. You have to calm him down, and you have to also relay the messages of Holly's final words to him, just so he can break the curse. So it was a lot. It was a very sentimental moment, and it was even more of a sentimental moment knowing that the main character's mom actually came from the future, and that's why she left him years ago, because she had to go back.
Oh, okay, what a twist.
So yeah, and I won't get started on Monica's story, because Monica's is, oh my god. But overall, the main character trying to find his mom in this adventure, finding out that she's from the future, that was the more subtle secondary part. That was the more shocking part to me when it came to it. The story about Griffin was secondary to me, because the main point of the adventure for Max was try to find his mom.
Okay.
Okay. And speaking of games I wish we had more of, there's actually a series, and hashtag fuck Konami because of this. Suikoden.
Suikoden.
I never played, but I've heard a handful of people talk about it before.
I'm actually gonna put
Maybe
those
one
in.
day I'll experience that game.
I'm actually
One day down in my future.
I'm actually gonna probably put those in the PlayStation Classic when I get mine. Just
Okay.
throw it in there. Suikoden was really good. Parasite Eve is also another in that PlayStation era as well.
Yeah, I've actually had a lot of good moments in Suikoden 4 and 5, and I wish they would port them onto newer consoles just for the heck of it. but I wish we'd seen more of those.
Yeah, that will do it. Also, another series that is not talked about as much, Breath of Fire.
Yes.
Only had what? Yeah, I've heard it before. I only had like one friend that played it back in the day.
I haven't played it as much, but I have heard lots of it, and because my sister is a Breath of Fire fanatic.
Okay.
So the game that started me on Breath of Fire was actually the one that came out for the PS2 called Dragon Quarters. And then I went backwards because I'm like, this says this is the 4th or 5th game in its series, or 6th in this situation. I'm like, let me go backwards. Let me find the original. And then we got lucky because the Switch released Breath of Fire's 1 and 2 for the Super Nintendo store. That Super Nintendo Online, you could play both Breath of Fires on your Switch. So for those watching, play Breath of Fire. You might actually enjoy it.
Yes.
Approve. Like Hito approved message. Play Breath of Fire. It's actually really good. Aside from the random encounters, it's good. Which, that goes to my next question. What is one thing in an RPG, what is one trope in an RPG you cannot stand?
Okay, let me think about that.
That's a good question.
Okay.
Son of a bitch.
I actually got one for you. And I'm gonna bring this up because this was my Earthbound Beginnings playthrough. But the random encounters got me so mad. And I'm not talking, like, listen, I don't mind random encounters in games. They're fine. Here's the thing. I kind of want to take 1 or 2 steps before going into another battle. Like, I'm like, okay, I just whooped this creature's butt. Perfect. Let me just walk away for it. Nope, another battle. You have to do this straight on. And I'm like, but why? So this trope of random encounters was so ridiculous back then in the NES era and the Super Nintendo era because it was constant. Okay, like games that do random encounters like Final Fantasy, like Earthbound Beginnings. Pokemon is another one, but you can technically avoid it by getting out of the wild grass. There's a lot of ways to avoid random encounters. That's why when there were games that had ways to get rid of random encounters in some way, and they weren't so random anymore, it was great. Example, Pokemon, you could just cut the grass. You could literally just use cut on the grass, you're fine. You could just walk through. Earthbound had the mechanic of the monsters just chasing you or creatures just chasing you instead of randomly encountered for that whole thing. Final Fantasy fixed that up a lot too, especially with 13 and 15. I didn't like 13 that much. 15 was okay in my book, but 15 definitely fixes like, oh, you see a creature, do you want to approach it? Are you sure you want to battle this thing? That's kind of like an important thing that's kind of an important thing that we upgraded from those random encounters. And I think that's what we needed more when it came to improvements in games.
I'm gonna say, first off, before I get into the actual trope, I'm gonna actually say one thing about the random encounters, and this is a little confession for me when I first, and this is back when little mini child me, because I didn't know any better at the time. I remember playing the original Final Fantasy VII, and that little spinning where the world just spins around, and all of a sudden you're in a freaking battle. When I first played Final Fantasy VII, that felt like a jump scare to me because with the music and such, like because I literally jumped the first 2 or 3 times when that happened. But as far as tropes, the one when I first got introduced into RPGs and JRPGs, the one that kind of annoyed me is the trope of I'm only 12 years old. Why am I suddenly leaving my house, leaving my parents, and suddenly I'm charged with saving the world?
Literally Mother series in a nutshell.
And Pokemon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Pokemon to an extent. I see. So you don't like you're not a super fan of the overused. I'm a normal high schooler trope. Air quotes. I'm your average everyday anime protagonist.
Correction. I'm your
Muscle jacked up as fuck.
correct.
Overpowered as fuck.
Correction. I'm just a normal elementary school student, and I'm just going out into the wild doing anything.
I'm at that age, but yeah.
That's literally what one of the earlier Final Fantasies was. Like, you were literally a kid. You weren't even coming of age yet. And suddenly you're leaving your home to save the world.
Okay.
But it's your destiny.
Oh,
but it's your destiny.
I thought a little bit about your. I thought a little bit about your question. You know, what's one JRPG trope that gets on my nerves a little? This is gonna be a little weird, but it's number and character and it's number and stat imbalance. Basically, no RPG is perfect. There's gonna be some chinks in the numbers, some unfortunate. Some unfortunate like snags in the algorithms for the numbers of how JRPGs calculate, because all JRPGs operate under a number sort of, again, algorithm. So basically what I'm trying to say is there's been times I've been playing because a bunch of JRPGs that unfortunately are just unbalanced, and I'll quickly go over what I mean. In an old PS1 JRPG called Legend of Dragoon, the thing that holds the game back from being like truly great or aging unfortunately better than it could have been is that wild battles give you zero, like very minuscule like little like smallest supermarket ass size free sample exp. So the battles there just drudge on the entire game because you only get exp through boss battles. Essentially, wild battles give you no exp, like very little exp whatsoever. It's barely worth it. Another thing is party member imbalance. Now, again, no JRPG is truly perfect, but there is party member imbalance in a handful of JRPGs I play. The one I'm playing right now, Xenogears. Again, 1998 made, but damn, you can clearly tell that the main character and two other party members are clearly better than the other 4 characters on the roster. It's not even like close. You even in the clip you seeing up above when it gets to Xenogears, I'm using the 3 best characters in the game. That even extends to like one of my favorite JRPGs, Persona 5. I don't know if I'm gonna butt heads with Sage here, but vanilla Persona 5 Yusuke is useless. He can't hold a candle to, well, of course Joker's always in the party, but Ryuji on Queen, and even Morgana is way more useful than him. So character imbalance.
Well, actually, it doesn't actually butt heads, because in a way, I actually agree with you as far as Persona 5.
Okay.
I've always said Ryuji, best boy, period.
Yeah. But it basically, yeah, character and stat imbalance. It's, again, no JRPG can be absolutely perfect, but it's just it gets on my nerves a little when it's like that obvious. Especially, again, this is more of a problem with older JRPGs where they just didn't fucking care about the number algorithm. So Legend of Dragoon has pointless wild battles, and characters are way overpowered in Xenogears than other 4 party members. So
yeah.
If I replay Xenogears, I'm just going to use the same party game, because why would I choose to make myself worse?
But yeah, Yusuke in Persona 5 Vanilla was useless.
Useless Yusuke.
I like the fact that they made him a little bit better in Royal.
Yeah, thank God.
But like, apparently the developers pretty much said, "Oh, we noticed this shit."
All right. Again, Persona 5 is one of the lesser egregious examples. I'm more talking about older RPGs. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, and I'm not going to go on for too long of a tangent, but one of the also like stat imbalances. I'm sorry, Hito, but Earthbound suffers from this as well.
Yeah.
During my playthrough of Earthbound last year, I noticed the difficulty is a huge ass roller coaster.
Mhm.
Sometimes enemies are so easy and they drop shitloads of EXP. And other times enemies are way too oppressive and hard. It's like I can't. The game's giving me so many mixed signals.
No, yeah,
Like the little sized enemies give you so much EXP and they're so weak. It's hella easy. I'm fucking bankrolling them.
So
by the way, sorry for all the swearing.
Oh no, you're fine. But I will say this:
bankrolling the bean-sized enemies, and then some enemies are oppressive, hard, and explode on you and do like. all that damage, and they don't, and it's not worth it. I'm like, well, damn.
So I can actually explain that one for you.
But anyway, yeah.
I can actually explain
Okay.
that one for you. So Earthbound always has a trope in its game itself where the smaller enemies are always the XP bombers. And here's the thing. Here's the reason why sometimes you get a creature that's harder to fight than an easier creature to get more XP. That's on purpose, because the smaller creatures are supposed to help you up with the XP a little bit, and as you level up, you get less XP from them. When you go to the harder creatures in that same area, it's because they're rare creatures and they're harder to spawn. That's why. The rarer creatures that are harder to spawn, they are more powerful. And the reason why they are more powerful is because sometimes they have items that are hard to find, i.e. the star hair clip for Paula, which you would get at near the end of the game. When you're coming back home and you notice the alien invasion's happening, where you had to fight the final the Starman, those are difficult. Those are hard to find, rare, and then 2, they spawn a very hard item that is hard to come by. That's why they do that.
That is true.
That's why they do that whole difficulty curve, because it's like, oh, not only did you find the rare enemy, but now you have to defeat it to get this very hard item.
That is true.
And then the bad news is sometimes and then most of the time you just won't get that item, but you get a shit ton of XP. But then a shit ton of XP comes from it. So I was like, okay, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But I will admit, Earthbound Beginnings did that.
And someone actually made a decent comment. I actually want to read what he said. He says, gotta make RPGs where you're a middle-aged person doing his own thing. And suddenly have to save the world. You're just getting to work, then destiny happens.
I wish that would happen.
I also read that comment on way later when we discussed the RPG list we made. There's actually one of my favorite RPGs that actually stars an adult for a change, and not just a somewhere in the teen kid or early 20s. It actually stars like an actual like grown ass adult as the main character. But I'll get onto that later.
Yeah. Legitimately, the reason why RPGs kind of target towards the younger demographic is because, hey, we're trying to get these youngins into RPGs just like we did with our older group. But now we're that generation, we're the older group, and we want to have that whole entire feeling of, okay, we're used to kids being in RPGs, but can we have an adult now? It's kind of like that. It's like
That is why Joker in Persona 5 will be one of my favorite characters.
Like,
why?
One, because he's a high school student. He's not actually a kid anymore. He's actually getting up there now.
Oh, okay, well.
2, that game has a theme. Everybody's a dick.
That is true.
That
I
is-
mean, that's true.
that is the theme, but then when you think about it, that's the theme in all RPGs. Oh, the government's a dick. Oh, this is a dick. Oh, the dictatorship is a dick. And I'm like, really? No shit. Oh, Shell brings us a question. Viewer question time. What is an RPG you bought out of impulse, but you ended up loving the game?
That's a good question.
Very good game,
Yes.
Sage.
Oh, fine, impulse. But you're like, well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not challenging you at all. But does that really count as impulse? Aren't you already like a Fire Emblem fan before Three Houses came out? So you trusted the series?
Well, before this game, the last Fire Emblem I had played was when I used to have a Game Boy Advance almost 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. And you played the Lynn, Hector, and Eliwood game.
Mm-hmm.
More Sacred Stones. I got you. Okay, fair. That's fair. I don't mind me looking to the side. I'm actually looking at my game shelf right now. What's one RPG I spontaneously bought that I loved? Oh, I can answer that question. So again, this won't be on the top 10 list, but Akiba's Beat is a very interesting JRPG. So Akiba's Beat, it sort of rips off Persona 5's vibes. Akiba's Beat takes place in current day with a character living in Akihabara. His name's Asagi. Akiba's Beat is a Groundhog's Day sort of story JRPG where the main character is trapped and his party are trapped in a repeating Sunday. But other people know this too, especially like the villain group. It's a weird story. It involves a kid who's a god named Canon, and it involves a Groundhog Day repeating story. basically his party has to solve it, and it involves dreams too. It's a very interesting JRPG. I bought it on a whim because it copies Tales of Exilia's battle system. So I want to say, oh, someone actually made a rip-off Tales game. I'm actually in. I want to see that, and it actually turned out to be pretty damn good.
So I have 2 impulse buys, 3 technically. So I'll go into this quickly. I'll make the list very quickly. So Dark Cloud 2 and Dragon Quarters were 2 of my impulse buys because I bought them at the same time. It was like, I'm looking for games for the PS2. I found Dark Cloud 2. I played 2 first before I played the first one, which that's telling because I was a kid who did not care about sequels. I was like, hey, this looks awesome. And then I played it and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, there's a first game. I wonder if the first game is like this. And I'm like, the first game is nothing like this. Got it. Awesome. But Dark Cloud 2 and Dragon Quarters, which was a Breath of the Wild game, but the Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire. There we go. It was a Breath of
Think there for a second.
It was a Breath of Fire game, but the battle mechanic was different. It was tactical / real time. So you would make a move, you would move your character, you would do an attack, and then you would stay there. And then the opponent will go after that. And it was like, oh god, this is a weird mechanic. It's tactical, yet it's real time. And I'm like, it's not like Fire Emblem, but it's just this weird movement that's to it, if that makes sense. It was strange. But then my second impulse buy was recent. It was about 2-3 years ago. I was getting close to ending college, and I picked up Octopath Traveler. And Alphen to my day is my favorite character in an Octopath ever. So I love me some Octopath Traveler.
I love Alphen's story in Octopath. I'll co-sign that with you.
Because I related with Alphen's story because it was like, oh wow, I was letting a sense of duty and my kindness take over, and now I pretty much almost got a child killed by accident. Great, this was smart of me. Like, I literally understood that storyline a lot better because I've gone through that personally. That was one game I could never ever put down. But then when I started looking at it, I was like, oh wow, some of these stories I can relate to, but Alphen's is the one I can relate to the most, was because I know what it's like to be too kind and then something terrible happens because of said kindness. So
yeah, I know what you're saying.
I understood that, and I related with Alphen's story. Shellshock brings up Cyrus and Primrose. Said, "Go pleasure yourself."
Their stories were all right.
Primrose was pure revenge for her father. I know that for a fact. But the way she does say, "Go pleasure yourself," I'm like, that's the kind way of saying, "Go fuck yourself." Like, that's essentially the kind way of saying, "Go fuck yourself." And Cyrus's story was like, listen, knowledge is not meant to be hidden. It's meant to be shared with everybody. Now stop being a prick and tell us what's going on. I'm like, okay.
Cyrus was one of my favorite characters in that game. I mean, just something about being a mage.
Should we call you Mage Hinata from now on?
Mage Hinata.
No, that's all good.
Also, I just love how Show's like, gotta keep that T rating. You can't say go fuck yourself. You gotta say go pleasure yourself instead. Listen, it's okay. We come up with this. But now we have hit the 1 p.m. slot, which means the top 10s list time.
Okay.
Kablink. So, as you can see on our screens, we each have a letter, A, B, and C. So, you know what's gonna happen. We're gonna rank these games. Well, we're going to rank the games that we enjoyed the most when it came to the RPG title. So, I'm A, as you can see by my letter here. Sage is B, as you can see at his letter on the top left corner. Same with Matt. He has a letter on his top left corner. And we will be putting down each of the letters. Well, each letter we put down 10. So, we're starting at our number 10.
Oh, we're to save the best for last. I got you.
We We got to be a little
Oh
grandiose.
boy.
We got to be a little.
No, I got you. I got you. If you have your answer, feel free to interrupt me. Oh boy, what do I want to put as number 10? Oh man.
All right. So I guess I could start us off with 10. So
Sure, go ahead. I need some time to think.
so
Oh god. Oh man.
so my 10, ironically enough, is Persona. The series, like in general.
You eat 5?
No, I mean collectively the whole series.
You're counting this whole series? Oh, okay.
Because I've played every single Persona game. It would be at least, it would range, because if I just put all of the Persona games in my top 10s list, it would be bad. But out of ranking wise, 1 is 15, 2 is 13, 3 is 10, 4 is 11, and then 5 is 7 on my list. So as I ranged everything, I'm like, I'm just gonna put it as my 10, considering how it is for me. So
Although, as far as music, I have to go with that Mass Destruction.
Fair.
wait, hold on a second.
Okay.
Is my
If
thing
we're
working?
allowed to, that's a good angle to take it from. We're allowed to take it from that angle. I think I know what I would want to put
Wait.
as my 10th rank.
Can I write? Okay, yes, there we go. I was like, can I write? Can we write? Thank you. Persona.
So you did pretty much my strategy where you didn't want to overload your list with sort of one game series, so you sort of tied them together or just chose some maybe other ones on your all collective around favorite list.
Correct the mundo.
All right.
All right, so Persona's in my list. Oh my god, why is it so tiny? Jesus. Can you not be tiny? Can you be big? There we go. That's better. So the Persona series is a 10 for me. I enjoy it, but sometimes I feel like the game gets away with things that something I went over in the Forgotten series stuff. I felt like Persona got away with some things that indie games cannot, and that's just one of the many games that I think that get away with for indie games at the very least. I.e., Themes of Suicide was one of them that I brought up.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah, that.
It was, I mean, Sage just reminded me that there was 2 instances of it technically. But-
Well, I mean, Persona 3. Let's not forget the way you summon your persona on Persona 3. Then Persona 5. All I gotta do is say a name, Shiho.
Yes.
Which they need to make Shiho a waifu on that game. I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying.
Listen,
I got it.
Listen, I just gotta say altogether, like, games like indie games that give warnings about that, but Persona didn't technically give any warning about that. Just the it has a rating on it, obviously, but you get what I'm saying. Like, as mental health is concerned, that is probably something that would probably trigger somebody.
And I'm gonna go into full detail because that game is also on my list.
Mm-hmm.
It's on my top 10 list, but I'll explain it when we get to it. It did trigger me. That little moment did trigger me, and yeah, like I said, I will go full explanation.
No problem.
On why, on the one side, it does trigger me, and I completely agree with you, Hito. On the other flip of the coin, it also made me hate and despise a certain character. It made me so enjoy beating the ever-loving crap out of him.
That is fair. All right, so what is your number 10 between Sage and between both of you? What is your favorite 10?
For me, number 10 has to be Yakuza.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's fun. It's like the fact that a lot of times I could get lost just beating the crap out of enemy enemy nukes, enemy like thugs, and just basically enemy Yakuza members, and just grab a bicycle and just swing it in the middle of Tokyo,
Just take
and
a.
suddenly not, yeah, and suddenly not get, arrested all of a sudden, even though I'm out in broad nightlight and such.
I feel you on that. Like, listen, I would like to take a bicycle and just slam it on somebody one day and just not get arrested for it. Just ring, 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 ring.
My number 10 you can put down as the Mass Effect series. See, since you just gave me the idea just now when you combine the Persona series together, Mass Effect 2 would be higher up on this list hypothetically, but if I were just encompass all the Mass Effect games together, it would be the Mass Effect series at number 10. Because while 1 is still pretty okay in my opinion, it is the most aged out of the entire ones. 3 has a lot of divisive takes on it. It's probably one of the most divisively talked about games in gaming history ever since its infamosity back in 2012. And another game with a lot of infamosity, Mass Effect Andromeda, which is also talked a lot about for its shortcomings, unfortunately. That being said, though, all things considered, since Mass Effect 1 and 2 are still phenomenal, especially 2, I still think about 2 this very day, even 11 years later after it came out. Yeah, Mass Effect series ultimately culminates as a number 10 for me.
All right. And now we've hit our 9s. Who wants to go first on this one?
Okay.
I'll go ahead and go first this time. For
Mhm.
me, it has to be the Ninja Gaiden series.
Ooh.
Yes. A series where basically you play as Ryu. And a lot of people say, like, I've actually had one conversation where they say that the Ninja Gaiden series is kind of like Souls-like. And I actually have to make the argument. I'm like, no. Ninja Gaidens did not pull the Souls thing. Dark Souls pulled it from Ninja Gaiden, because that game has been notorious for being extremely difficult.
It did.
But it was fun nonetheless.
I can see that. All right. Anyone else wanna? Matt, do you want to put it in?
Yeah. Number 9. Another Western RPG, actually, and it's funny. Sage and I were talking about this while you were offline. We had a nice conversation while you were offline about the spoilers upcoming in the stream. Number 9 for me would be Baldur's Gate 2. Let me go on a little bit of a nice rant about this game. This game's a phenomenal game. It's a ye old classic Western RPG, I believe from 1990. I think that's its birth year. Either way, it set the diamond standard for all Western RPGs to come. It's a great game. You take a party of 6 through a D&D styled adventure. It uses D&D round by round rules actually in its coding. That's why I say Baldur's Gate is the best D&D game out there. I don't know if I'll get some people at my neck about that, but I personally think that. But either way, it uses the D&D classes and using the D&D round by round rule set. It's a phenomenal game. You take your party through an adventure, and you fight a very iconic villain named John Irenicus in that game, who's a pretty badass villain, especially written for his time.
All right. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. I'm sorry.
Oh.
That game also has a cool co-op mechanic. Like for example, you can play that game online with friends. I think that's dope. That you can do co-op in an RPG. I'll get more on co-op later with some other games on my list. But you can control an individual member and play co-op or upload your own character in a party together. Me and my homies used to do that back in the day.
Might have to get Baldur's Gate 3 then.
I highly recommend Baldur's Gate 3, and yes, you can play co-op.
I was gonna say they kept the co-op. Yes.
Yes, you play with up to 4 players total in co-op, and whoever, like for example, if you meet a NPC that you could in the single player version that you could put into your party, for example. Like let's say for example, me, Hito, and Matt was playing, and Matt decided to go into a conversation. His choices affect our entire game.
Yeah.
Matt, no drink.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Matt, no drinking in the tavern and hitting on the bar dancer. Just none of that.
Yeah.
I was gonna mention. It's funny. Ever since my Baldur's Gate 2 playing days since '98, I always played Monk, which is why it's my favorite D&D class. Which is why I played Monk during your one night D&D
and
session.
The cool thing about Baldur's
right.
Gate 3, it has the recent D&D rules.
Yeah. Of
Oh,
course.
so it has.
I thought that.
Oh, so it has Viii, the one that we were playing last time.
It literally has virtual dice.
Oh wow. Okay. They actually just don't hide it this time.
Yeah, they literally say, "Hey, you want to do an intelligence check?"
Oh wow. Okay. So they are actually okay. They're really treating it like it's D&D inspired. Okay. Dope.
All right. So with that being said, my number 9, I had to really think about it because it was a tie, so I had to break the tie a little bit. My number 9 is the Tales series. I don't hate it.
Hey.
But
well, good.
I don't hate it.
We'd have a problem.
I despise it, Matt. I despise it so bad.
Right. BRB coming to your house.
The Tales of, but yes, the Tales of series is literally just it's an okay series for me. There's some I prefer over others. There was a whole group of them. I did like Vesperia, but I also liked Berseria a little bit better.
That's fine. Berseria is a great game in the series.
And along with that, Symphonia I loved. So I can't really complain about it. It's a really good series overall.
Game that changed my life.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So that was
I can't believe you put apostrophe S. I can't believe you put apostrophe S.
I was wondering if you would catch that.
Of course. now I'm gonna wring your neck if you don't change it.
What are you talking about? That's no apostrophe. I never used an apostrophe. What are you talking about? We'll just edit that out of the takes. We're fine. We're okay. We're good. We're good. No one saw the apostrophe. We're fine. But yeah, all in all together, it's looking good so far. So now for your number 8 spot, Matt, do you want to try this one out?
Sure. Me first. Yeah. I actually have this one down. I'm gonna put Lost Odyssey here. Now, let me explain in a brief nutshell the fantasticalness of Lost Odyssey. So, as the aforementioned Sohn comment in chat, Lost Odyssey actually stars an adult protagonist for a change. I think his age is, he's about like 29, I think. It stars a main character named Kime, and the story goes this. He's actually, now, the gameplay goes around this real well. He's actually immortal. He and a few other people come from another dimension, and he's actually immortal in the world he currently lives in. He's sort of like a little on the, again, this game was written in 2008. He's a little on the edgy side. He's more of a quiet character. He serves in his local military, etc. But eventually a plot kicks off where someone from his dimension tries to take over the kingdoms in his world, and he has to go on an adventure to stop them. Eventually even reuniting with his lost daughter, who's older than him, because again, he doesn't age because he's immortal. It's a very interesting story, culminating on the topics of life, humanity, time, etc. And that stars an adult-ass main character.
All right. For me, number 8, it would have to be the Pokemon series, honestly.
Okay.
I love the Pokemon series a lot, but honestly, there's a lot of Pokemon that I can do, but I specifically didn't... Okay, so here's my gripe a little bit. I enjoyed Unova, but I also hated it at the same time. I was a very neutral standpoint in Unova. I enjoyed Sun and Moon, but then we didn't need Ultra. We didn't need Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. If anything, Sun and Moon should have just been Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon in that case from the get-go, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, we made another game that is 80% the same game, but just with DLC. I'm like, couldn't you just do DLC then? I don't know, like
Yeah.
like it would have just made sense instead of me buying another game that was practically the same thing. It should have just been DLC. This would have been a
Gen
good
7 was still phenomenal, though. I
yeah.
love Gen 7 to death.
Gen 7 was great. I will not ever doubt it ever again, but still, it's like it's a thing. All right.
Okay, from
Yeah, I was gonna say, Sage, it's your turn.
I know. And this one was it wasn't my favorite game, but it was the game that basically got me into, and we're going retro on the RPGs
Mhm.
on this one. Mega Man X.
You mean the do you mean Command Mission? The one RPG that came out for the GameCube?
Mega Man X, the original.
Sage, that's a platformer.
Oh shit. Well, okay, sorry. Then the other one I had in my mind was the original Ocarina of Time. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Split hairs, but does Zelda really count?
Does it?
Mm,
I mean,
it's okay, so it's in between RPG and not an RPG because at one point it's a dungeon crawler, technically speaking. You're not raising any personal stats, but you're getting items.
Well, then the other one that I had in my mind was Pokemon Yellow.
Okay.
Pokemon Yellow.
Because it got me into Pokemon. It was, Gen 1 here, guys. Like I said, it was 7-year-old me. I had been given a original Game Boy for my birthday. And with that Game Boy was Pokemon Yellow.
All right, so that's actually pretty cool. I started with blue myself. I actually still have my copy.
Well, again, as you know me as my favorite color, yes, I started with blue also.
But then my aunt gave me red and was like, "Here, it's a different Pokemon game." And I'm like, "Oh, this looks amazing." And then I'm like, "Wait a minute. Am I playing my blue? Am I being punked?"
And then in modern days, we still got the recent Pokemon games. But yeah, for some odd reason, every Pokemon's like, meh.
Yeah.
They only have one Pokemon that actually sounds like a Pokemon. That was Pikachu.
Yeah. With its compressed ass voice clips on the Game Boy Color.
That's scary. Listen, I remember one time that thing just went off under my pillow because I had it on. I was trying to pretend I was actually asleep, and then I clicked the button. I clicked the button, and all I hear in my pillow is Pika. I'm like, fuck. I got so nervous because all I heard was like a staticky Pikachu yelling through the little speaker in the Game Boy Color, and I was just like, no. Like it was bad.
All right, so we're on 7 now, right?
Yeah, we're on 7 right now, and I'll start us off on 7. So this is gonna sound really weird. This is gonna be like, how could you put this above Pokemon? But my 7 is actually the Digimon World Series. It holds a very special place in my heart. For one, my late grandmother gave me that game thinking it was a Pokemon game. So, funny enough, that was a thing. She thought it was a Pokemon game. But I looked at it as a measure of which game did I spend more time playing. And I honestly was playing the Digimon game much more. It needed my attention much more too, because as opposed to Pokemon where you're raising at least close to an X amount of like 100 and something Pokemon at the time, I was just focusing on my one Digimon that was getting stronger and possibly ranking up in its ranking. It was digivolving. It was doing all of the things that it needed to do. And essentially, I got my hands on Leomon and then Phoenixmon. I was going crazy with getting all of the evolutions. And this was fun. And all of it was just more on the fact of reincarnating a Digimon and going backwards. I'm like, okay, so I lost my Digimon to old age. Now I got to do it again. And this time I could probably make a stronger one. So it was like more on the focus of training this one person that is reincarnated like 24 times. He's had a whole timeline of reincarnations, okay? Literally, he was a water flea at one point, turned into a whale, turned into a bird, turned into all of these things. And I'm just like, this is really cool. I actually enjoy this gameplay mechanic. So the Digimon World Series was a great one for me.
Okay, I got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Rhapsody, a musical adventure.
I'm actually...
Which is a tactical role-playing game developed by Nippon Ichi Software.
Oh, I think CGK mentioned that once, but yeah, go on.
Well, the reason why I love this game is because it was one of the first games, because I originally got it for the PlayStation 1. And then all of a sudden, I started hearing music in this game and English voice acting in a PlayStation 1 game. And I was like, okay, one, I'm really starting to like the story in this. Two, I'm really starting to like the music because you play as a girl who is trying to get through her way. She ends up eventually meeting a prince. It's the typical, it's your typical genre of, kind of like Cinderella in a way. But it ended up being something that stuck with me, like in my heart. And I wished I had like the recent ports of the game. And I'm kind of heartbroken that I don't, because it stuck in my heart for ages.
Interesting.
Might actually have to give that one a try too if it was for that era.
I guess I'm last up on the list. Okay, so for my numero 7, I will go with yeah, that one. We'll go with Dragon's Dogma. So you probably heard about this game. This was, in my opinion, a slightly underrated gem made by Capcom in 2012. Dragon's Dogma is a JRPG, even though it has a lot of Western styled graphics to it. Actually, is a JRPG made by Capcom, no less. It's a very good game. You create your own character, you create your own avatar character and its class and its weapon it uses. But you also, here's where the big mechanic comes in that I love and think about to this day, and I can't wait for the sequel to come out, and I hope they really knock it out of the park. You create something called a pawn, which is a spiritual party member, because they live in like a dimension that you get in from like a rock. You create a pawn, you can design it to your whim, male, female, height, etc., whatever class. But the thing about the pawns is that it lives like outside the game. It lives in an online database, so people can recruit your pawn and use it in their party, and your pawn earns rewards for you. The same goes for you. So you can have a party up to 4 people: you, your pawn, and 2 other pawns you download from the online community base. And that was so much fun back in the day. I played Dragon's Dogma for like a few years. It was so much fun just playing the game over and over again, just finding pawns. People name pawns after like memes. And like DBZ characters. I remember I had Vegeta on my team fighting the final boss. It was overall just very funny. There's a lot of fun user creativity in it, and they did have filters to stop bad shit from getting in. So good on Capcom for that too. But overall, it was a JRPG that did something so different. You recruit online party members that earn rewards for the owner. It was so dope. I can't believe they think about making a sequel. I'm so excited. I can't wait. And also just play Dragon's Dogma 1. It honestly deserves it. It has a nice mystical story too about you fighting. There's also an anime on Netflix I gotta watch. They made an anime of it last year. You basically, in a nutshell, you fight a dragon who steals your heart. Not in a good way like the Phantom Thieves, a bad way. It literally rips the heart out of your chest and it says, "Come find me, you little bitch," and then flies away. and then the main character's like, "I bet, let's go."
The game where your internal organs just say things. Got it. Awesome. I'll go for it. I'm stop. Big dumb. Don't mind me. All right.
The dragon says, "Come find me, little bitch." But yeah, he literally rips the heart out of your chest.
All right. So our next one is our number 6 title, and Matt, you got the floor.
All right. right, I get to start out this one. Number 6. Oh boy. Okay, hot off the heels of my last rant right there. Number 6 will be
got it.
Is a fantastic JRPG. Paper Mario, and it's actually Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Boy, what can I say about this game that hasn't been said at this point? It's literally a phenomenal young teenhood JRPG for I think pretty much all of us. I think all of us has pretty much mentioned Paper Mario Thousand Year Door at this point.
Yep.
Oh boy, how do I talk about this without getting to some minor controversy? Basically, the series has never been the same since. You can like and dislike the games afterwards. That's fine, but let's be real here. This is the absolute diamond standard of Paper Mario. It's a phenomenal game. The dialogue is fantastically written. The battle system is perfectly up to snuff with good mechanics. It rewards getting good at the timed hit system that Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario before it had. It has a very dark storyline for Mario standards, and like really, well, you know this game, and so do I. You know the rules of this game, and so do I.
I just beat this game 2 months ago on stream.
Well, okay, maybe it wasn't part of your childhood, but hey, at least you experienced it in your life.
No. It was part of my
it.
childhood. I just wanted to play it again because I was like, I haven't done it. I haven't done it live. Let's do it live.
Oh yeah, word! I'm gonna do it live one day too. I can't wait. And you know what's funny? I'm gonna really go in a weird direction here. You know what's actually really funny? Technically, yeah, this is gonna be me conspiracy tinfoil hat thing right here. But technically, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door stars an adult protagonist in a cut Smash trophy, which you can decide is canon or not. Mario is envisioned to be 26 years old. Paper Mario technically stars a mid-20s man as an adult, essentially, as a JRPG protagonist. Now that sounds kooky as fuck. So you can take that as what you will.
Mine would have to be Suikoden 5.
Suikoden. Oh my god.
Yes.
Dish.
Hmm?
I'm saying dish. Go in. I'm telling you, go in.
All right. This one is where you play. It's one of the first games where you play as 6 people parties. And as the story progresses, you play as a prince. And as the story, without going with any too many spoilers, you end up getting a total, and this is a lot of them are optional, but you end up getting a total of 108 party members to choose from, and you can actually switch back and forth between said party members, but you can only keep up to 6. And there's actually 3 different ways you can actually go upon as far as battle systems. There's the classic turn-based battle system, or instead of, like I said, where you have all 6 people in your party going in turn-based systems. Then there's the strategic style of battle system, which is closer to Fire Emblem in many ways. And then there's the one-on-one dueling system, which was something that I thought was a new take on an RPG that I had never played in the past. So when I played it, when I ended up playing it, I ended up loving the crap out of it. It was originally on the PlayStation 2, but they've never had a port, not even a PS3 port, unfortunately. But it was something that I've always enjoyed.
Okay. Nice.
So my number 6 is not my last Nintendo choice, but my last main, I guess. Main's AAA title, I guess. Probably. Who knows? I'll think about it. But 6 is Super Mario RPG.
Okay.
Dope. I love Super Mario RPG. I loved it a lot more than Paper Mario. Now, that's not to say I don't like Paper Mario. I love all of the Paper Marios, except for Sticker Star. That one can go burn in a ditch, because I actually beat Sticker Star. I went through that pain, okay? I went through that pain and torment that was Sticker Star, and I will never, ever do that again, okay? Seriously, Nintendo, why? I'm just gonna have a quick rant here for a second. Nintendo,
Yeah,
we we loved Super Paper Mario at the very least. Okay, I understand it was different from Thousand Year Old Door, but Super Paper Mario was right up there. It was really good. And then you gave us Sticker Star. Then you gave us Sticker Star. And I'm like, God damn. Why do I need stickers to attack? Why can't I just smack something with a hammer? Why? Why do I need a sticker? I don't need a sticker. I just want to smack you with this hammer. That's it. I'm getting me mallet.
RPG stats battles are pointless.
That too. That was another thing. Oh no, but the RPG battles actually give you the items you need to fight. I'm like, no. Stop. Okay? I wanted actual battles. I wanted to level up. I wanted to actually upgrade my stats. When Origami King came out, I'm like, okay, this still has some elements of Sticker Star, but I can still upgrade my health. I can still upgrade my hammers. I can still upgrade kind of items that I want to use, including the fact of using a legendary hammer, which I enjoyed. Origami King gave me hope. So I'm hoping, see what I did there? I'm hoping that we could get something a little closer to at least Super Paper Mario status, or at least back to Thousand Year Old Door status, somewhere close to it, because the character creation in Paper Mario back then was absolutely wonderful. And then Nintendo was like, but we want Mario themed characters in the game. Like, okay, Origami King did a really good job at that. We had a regular Babam, we had a Toad archaeologist, and we had the freaking Magic Koopa on our team. We had all of that stuff there. It was good. I'm like, okay, you kind of Super Mario RPG'd the Paper Mario games by keeping Mario themed characters besides Mallow and Geno in the game. That's fine. We can do that. That works. So I wasn't complaining. This was a really good job right there, and it happened in a really good setting. That's why I prefer Super Mario RPG over Paper Mario, because if I was to do the math all together, how I basically did with Persona and the Tales of series and Pokemon all together, Super Mario RPG outbeats Paper Mario because of its only single thing, and the replayability of me playing that over and over again has really gone over. I've played it so much more than any other Paper Mario game. That's why RPG is above Paper Mario in my eyes.
Okay, that's fair.
All right.
Again, I do love Super Mario RPG too. It's written very differently from Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door. It has a different sense of humor too.
Princess Peaches ?
Yeah, of course. Oh boy. Also, I don't know if you're testing me, and this is why Miyamoto doesn't talk to you. Paper Mario does not have Thousand Year Door does not have old in its title. So this is probably why Miyamoto ignores your emails and calls.
Yes. I'm shocked you just noticed it now.
No, I noticed it early. I noticed first thing, but I didn't want to interrupt everybody.
I was like, I just want to see.
I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be rude.
No, you're fine.
Rude.
You are fine.
I promise you, I noticed it immediately.
All right, there we go. All right, so now we're on our number 5. We're on our number 5 of RPGs. So let's see. Matt started out last time. I started time before that. Sage, you are on the number 5.
All right. Oh goodness, I'm gonna mention something that I'm not sure a lot of people even know about it, and it's the Ys series.
Oh
yes. YS.
And I'm saying the Ys series in general because, in my opinion, from Ys 1 all the way to Ys 8, and again, in my opinion, were phenomenal. And the fact that pretty much every game you play as the same character, adult Christian, was something that was a good take, in my opinion. And why in the hell are you putting apostrophe S? Really good.
Okay, I'm good. I promise. I'm just messing. Oh my god, could you imagine just like East?
And he still puts the apostrophe. I was about.
Oh no, I copied and pasted from the last one.
Oh, but the other thing was the first two games. It brought in a different take on the real-time battle systems. Afterwards, it was more of a hack and slash RPG, but you actually had to you didn't have to hack and slash in the first two games. In fact, you had to attack your enemies by running into them at an angle. And because if you just tried to run into them like head to head, you would get slaughtered.
So what you're telling me is, you're playing geometry.
Basically,
You're doing
yeah, you
geometry here.
basically had to
Choose your
basically
angle.
had to run yeah, basically from your sword arm, so to speak.
All right, so you know what? We need to be at 45 degrees, so that's an acute angle, so I have to do it from this section right here. Yes. All right.
Yes.
I'll go into my 5 right now quickly. So my 5 is Octopath Traveler.
Okay, dope.
So
Okay, yeah.
So it was a tie between Bravely Default and Octopath. Now, I love Bravely Default. Do not get me wrong. I enjoyed the crap out of it. But Octopath really set the standard for 8. So it set the standard for 8 characters altogether. And I was like, each of these guys get a perfect amount of development. Bravely Default, yes, they get a perfect amount of development too. You learn about Adea, you learn about Agnes, you learn about Tiz being my favorite character in the game, and I love Ring a Bell, including that plot twist that happened with Ring a Bell. All in all together, I still like Octopath better because it's more of an experience through their stories. Like you understand who they are to begin with, and then you get the nice cycle of adventure going, which is like, oh, here comes the ordeal, here comes the moral dilemma. And then here comes the epilogue of how said moral dilemma kicks in. I get to actually grow up with these characters as I'm playing. I'm like, I understand all of them, and Square Enix gave us 8 different games. If they added more detail in each and every single character, they gave us 8 different games when you think about it. Because the party system, if you have characters like Primrose or Ophelia, you can rally up some random NPCs and they can actually fight with you as well. So when I think about that, I'm like, you know, technically speaking, each of these characters could have had their own game. Primrose and Ophelia themselves could just have random townspeople as their teammates. Alfin and himself can make this purely investigation, and he could have had Zed and other main characters that were important in his story to go with him on this journey. Cyrus could have had more people on his journey as well, and also just been a lead investigator in most of his stuff, because that's what he did. He investigated. And so on and so forth. Oberon had so many warriors on his list, on his thing, that could have actually been a whole party for his group. Tressa was following her own Skies of Arcadia version of being a merchant, which I actually enjoyed a lot. Each had a theme that could have gone into a different game with just them having their own party members. And that's actually the Mind Blow series of how the game worked. It was like, the game works well together, but it also works well just apart. Each character has like their own version of the game that they could do really well if they had their own game.
Right.
That's technically why I had to put Octopath as 5, because it was like, these could be their own games. That is my so that is my 5.
All right, I guess I'm up. All right, I'll put number 5 as the game that changed my entire life, Tales of Symphonia. I was just going about this earlier. This is the game that got me into JRPGs in general, so there's no way I won't honor it by not putting it on this list. It gets number 5. As far as age-wise goes, it still ages relatively fine, both writing and gameplay-wise. It still holds up pretty damn well. Admittingly, some of its battle mechanics, especially since you can't free run around the 3D field like the newer Tales games have incorporated, admittingly can cause trouble for some people. as Vesperia, not the game. My community member Vesperia has come to me and said that he has trouble playing back the old Tales of Symphonia due to that issue. But even then, phenomenal game. It literally kicked off in my mind the concept of what a JRPG could be and how I wanted to now go out and play all of them. I basically had a shonen protagonist goal of going out and playing as much JRPGs as I can, and that game started. With its fantastic, again, even at the time, my mind was blown when I first laid eyes on it in my friend's house. Not only did it have a real time battle system, which is so crazy. Even to this day, Tales is one of the only few series that does real time battle systems. It not only had a real time battle system, but it was co op also. That blew my mind because all I knew at the time was, again, Paper Mario, Pokemon, and Final Fantasy X. Blew my absolute mind. Love it, and this is where I came today, loving JRPGs.
Right. As for me, oh wait, we're on number 4 now. I forgot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're on number 4, homie.
So since let's see, yeah, we did another 6. So I start off again, and then I give it to Sage, and then goes to Matt. All right.
Okay.
So my number 4. My number 4 is the Dark Cloud series. I enjoyed it. Again, like I enjoyed both of them. Do not get me wrong. But 2 will specifically have a place in my heart because it was the first one I played. The Dark Cloud series was great, but specifically 2 was the better one because the first one was all right. We are still restoring homes and stuff like that back to its original spot. But with Dark Cloud 2, there was a sense of urgency that we had to restore a place back to its original zone for the future so it can grow. Because, as I said before, I went into the story already, but I'll go into it again. This game has a lot of time traveling in it, going from the past to the future. And the evil Emperor Griffin decided to wipe out the past origin points of these future locations, like Jurex Woods and other stuff like that for that mention right there. So, that's literally a thing that happens. And yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Okay. You ready for this?
What?
My number 4 has to be the Final Fantasy series.
Final Fantasy series.
Yes. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I have to include all of them. Do I enjoy 7 and 8 the most? Absolutely. Do I personally think 7 is one of the most all-time Final Fantasy games of all time? Yeah, absolutely. But like even the classic games like Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 1 ported over to the PSP version even was something that I had spent hundreds of hours and growing up, and it was literally, even though 8 was the game that hooked me on Final Fantasy as well as RPGs in general, but after I played 8 I started going backwards. I started playing 6, I started playing 7, then 6, and then the other ones. And yes, do I agree that Final Fantasy VIII has some points that I really didn't like? Absolutely. Even after replaying it when the remastered version came out. Do I think Squall needs a smack in the head? Absolutely. But again, it's still one of those games where it got me into RPGs in general, and it will always have a place in my heart, and that's why it's number 4.
All right. And Matt, you're up.
All right, I'm up. Number 4. All right. All right, my number 4, I won't mince words. It's Dragon Age Origins. Dragon Age Origins, in my opinion, is the greatest Western RPG of all time. I remember my mind being blown away at this game back in 2009 when it came out. So, Dragon Age Origins, like Baldur's Gate, because this is a BioWare game, like Baldur's Gate, back when BioWare was good, but I won't get into that huge debacle right now. Dragon Age Origins uses actually D&D round by round combat system, also using D&D rules. It's great. Dragon Age Origins, the reason why it propels above Baldur's Gate, in my opinion, is while it may not be co-op and online like Baldur's Gate 2 is, it contains the best single player campaign I've ever played in a Western RPG. You do everything in this game. So to mince the story very short, you're a chosen one called the Grey Warden who has to stop a shadowy dark dragon called a Darkspawn. The archdemon. He controls a horde of dark creatures called the Darkspawn, which is your classic like demon-esque Western RPG, Lord of the Rings ass like the demon ass soldiers things, basically you have to go on an adventure stop, and your adventure takes you all over the world. It's beautiful. You climb the tallest mountain to rescue a god's sacred ashes and fight a cult. You travel up a mage tower and learn about their conflict between them and the Templars that imprisoned them. You go into the deepest forest and explore an elf colony and fight with werewolves. You go into the deepest rock caverns and find the dwarven's like lair. It's literally the perfect Tolkien-esque Western RPG of all time. It's so good. All culminating where you go up on top of a huge ass tower and fight the dark our demon dragon. It's a beautiful, absolutely phenomenal, stunning game. All with good RPG mechanics, dialogue, and etc. It's music, absolutely phenomenal. In my opinion, it's probably BioWare's best game.
All right.
I won't get into it. I won't get into it too much, but unfortunately, the series goes way downhill to that. Dragon Age 2 is actually one of the worst Western RPGs of all time, and Dragon Age 3 doesn't fully recover from that. So it goes downhill, unfortunately. But nothing taints Dragon Age 1, baby. Phenomenal game.
That is fair. All right. So Sage, you start off on the top 3 spot now.
The Mass Effect series, and when I say series, I mean the trilogy 1, 2, and 3. And the ones where you are playing as Commander Shepard. And although you could choose the first name on how you want to be, by default, his name is John Shepard. And you start off on a mission that goes haywire, because this is set in basically futuristic times where humanity has grown exponentially in technology and has actually allied themselves with various aliens, and then you figure out that there is an alien named Saren that pretty much betrays everybody. Without going into too much details, this series has actually been one of my favorite series playing in. I remember now I did start with Mass Effect 2, which above all else, in like I think it's one of the greatest third-person shooter games as well as RPGs that I've played in like forever, but that's a whole nother story. But then I started playing Mass Effect 1 and I realized, oh, your choices not only have consequences in the game, but it carries over between Mass Effect 2 and then Mass Effect 3. In fact, there's actually different dialogue depending on whether your character is male or female. And it was also one of the first games where your main character has a voiceover, has actually a voice actor. One of my personal favorite voice actors in the female Shepard is, her name is
Jennifer Hale.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer
No problem.
Hale. And it was actually one of those moments when I first heard of the Legendary Edition, where I got to watch basically a voiceover Q&A on YouTube. And one of the voiceovers who played as a Solarian actually told Jennifer Hale that she has this habit of where he doesn't know if she's accidentally going into character because she sounds so inspiring. And it was one of the, and like I said, it sticks with you when you play it. I mean, like Matt said, Dragon Age Origins for him is one of the top for him. For me, it has to be Mass Effect, just the trilogy itself. Even though I will say Dragon Age Origins is freaking amazing. I will agree with you on that.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, Jennifer Hale also plays as Naomi in the Metal Gear series as well.
That's
Yes.
correct.
So like
She's also Sheena in Tales of Symphonia.
like she's done a lot. Like she's been everywhere. I can't complain about that. That's like really awesome. Like I can't express how much like you brought up Jennifer Hale. Was like
Yeah.
So
She's
Matt,
a great voice actress.
so Matt, you're next.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, numero 3. All right. Well, there's no way I was gonna not mention this series at one point today. Good old Fire Emblem. I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan. Now the exact. I'm not just this. I mean, I could put the series here, but I'm gonna pinpoint it down because me and Vespi actually discussed this. We're gonna put Fire Emblem Path of Radiance actually in the number 3 slot. So let me explain why this Fire Emblem game in particular. Again, the whole series overall I like to death. But let me explain Path of Radiance. Path of Radiance is the best Fire Emblem game in the series, in my opinion. That, for those who don't know, that is the GameCube game that came out in 2005, and that's the debut of good old Ike, who's in Smash to this current day. The reason why this game is so good. I'll take one step at a time. The reason why the game is so good, to this day, it still has the best story in the Fire Emblem series. The story, again, Fire Emblem deals with a lot of war in all of its game stories. So there is war in this game too. No surprise. Big surprise. The thing that makes this story so unique is that its underlying adult themes of duty, responsibility, even delving into some harsh themes of racism too, because there's a group of beast people who are treated like shit. On religion and racism are actually two big themes in both of Ike's games. The first game, Path of Radiance, and even its sequel, Radiant Dawn. Its sequel, unfortunately, not as good as the first game, but I won't get into that. So again, what makes this game also really good is its gameplay. It refined the classic Fire Emblem gameplay to a nice T in this game, adding in special moves. Even Ike's very iconic Aether move debuts in this game. That he doesn't quite look the same in Smash, but that's fine. But the Ike's Aether move debuts in this game. That's where, of course, Sakurai got the information to design that move from. And so yeah, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance has the best game balance. I even mentioned balancing earlier as a nitpick for some JRPGs. This game has great game balance. It has a phenomenal story, and overall, yeah, just best designed Fire Emblem to this still very day.
So
Also, don't spell Radiance with a goddamn E.
I don't know how to. Okay, so out of all honesty, I actually didn't know how to spell.
Just replace the middle E with an A.
I was gonna say, is Hito just trying to get us?
This time that was a spelling error. This time that was a spelling error. My number 3 is always going to be Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
Listen, phenomenal story, multiple endings. I cannot like not pick up the game and go crazy. And the good news about this game is, as opposed to one of the tropes we talked about where party imbalance was a thing, I could have actually beaten the game with any of these characters, where I didn't feel like one was particularly useless. It was like each one complemented each other in some way, including the fact of the team moves as well. When you would do like the team moves with different characters, I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. There's no way that each of the characters are like left out in some way like Yusuke was in Persona 5, the vanilla version. Okay, I didn't feel like one character was left out particularly because I could use any character to beat the game. I could have done a combination of Chrono, Robo, and Ayla. I could have done Frog and Robo. I could have done Frog and Marl. I could have done Luca and Marl. It continues going off. Like, I can just combo with any character. So I didn't feel like there was a party imbalance, which was great. It was a good way of playing a natural RPG, an old-timey RPG where you worried about party imbalance. You didn't have to worry much about it with Chrono Trigger because all in all together, you could use any character to beat the game. Hell, when you unlock Magnus, which is a rite of passage for some in the game, which is not really that hard, but still. And when you unlock Magnus, it also opens up more slots because Magnus is very OP. If you just don't want to like learn the combinations with your characters, you could just use Magnus. It's like, hey, you're not a fan of the teamwork? Magnus can just mostly kill everyone. Have fun with that. There you go. You don't like teamwork? Here you go. Also, hi Silver. Thank you for the host. I appreciate it. So now we're up to our 2 slot, and our 2 slot, this time Matt's going to start us off.
All right. So this isn't my number 2 choice, but I just want to give a little shout out to the Dark Souls series. I realized when I was mashing my goddamn list together, I didn't put Dark Souls on there, and I started listing off this in incorrect order. Dark Souls would be ahead of some of the bottom parts on my list here, but we don't obviously don't have to replace. It's fine. I just want to give it its just due shout out. Dark Souls may be over talked about nowadays, and it has the fucking meme. Oh, this is the X of Dark Souls. This is the Dark Souls of X. It deserves it though, because back in 2011 when Dark Souls 1 came out, I was heavily addicted to that game. I loved it to death. The inner lore is great. And it does challenge you with its tough gameplay. It's great, and it's a real time JRPG. But that's not my choice. I won't go too into it. I won't waste time. My actual number 2 choice. Oh, so this game and my top game, of course, I technically have to say are tied, but I will put this game down as number 2. It's so close. It's a pin close, but since I have to force to separate them, I'll separate them like this. Number 2 is my favorite real-time JRPG of all time, and the best game in its series, in my opinion, Tales of Exilia, is my number 2 choice. Tales of Exilia is an absolutely phenomenal game. It stars the best written character in the series. His name is Jude Mathis. He's actually a medical student who knows martial arts, ironically enough. He goes on to, he learns that his medical college he's attending at. This dude's a college student. It's funny. His college he's attending at actually is hiding a secret government weapon. And when he goes to, of course, investigate it, he of course gets fucking expelled like the goddamn main character he is. So that, and then he discovers a spirit girl from another world named Mila Maxwell, and they go on an adventure to stop the government, the weapon, and eventually you learn some other interesting plot twists. But I actually won't get too into that now. But basically that's the story, and it's a really well-rounded story with really well-rounded characters, best characters in the series in my opinion. And the battle system is the best battle system in the series in my opinion. It is nice, fluid, and real-time. It's buttery smooth and an absolute joy to play. It cultivates all the combo system that Tales game is known for in its real time to an absolute perfect degree. I fell in love with it back when it released August. I know its exact release date, August 6, 2013. I remember being captivated that very day, and it became my, I guess, close to tied first, my favorite JRPG of all time.
All right. So my number 2. Wait. Oh, yeah.
Which one are we on? Are we on me or are we on you?
We're on me right now. Then it's you.
Go ahead.
So my number 2. So here's the funny part. I didn't think. Oh wait. So my number 2 is a tie, and the reason why is because 3 being Chrono Trigger is a thing that happens. But I did choose these 2 because they have a very similar story of things going. They're the same concept. Remember how I said it's the same genre all in all? But
yes,
I might actually change this up a bit in a second, and I'll explain it. But honorable mention is gonna go to honorable mention is gonna go to the newest indie game that's like Earthbound, Omori. And I can talk about Omori for days, but all I will have to say is, since the game is new, I don't want to spoil it too much, but the story goes into someone going through depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts, and lots of guilt. And you are literally only about 12 years old to high school. He's going through a certain tragic event that happened in his life, which is related to his sister's death. And you're finding out everything that his memories have blocked out and repressed, and him trying to finally find the goal to tell his friends how it actually happened, if that makes sense. So you're going through basically a dreamscape, which is in his mind, but then you're also playing in real lifetime where you're slowly reuniting with your old friends, and you find out that they're completely different since you shut yourself in for so many years since the tragic event. So it's a really, really great game. I know it goes into depression, anxiety, and suicide, and it's a lot, but when you play the game, it also explains it how to put it, it kind of puts to light what it feels like in some way when you're in that situation. It goes into a monologue of this is how it sometimes feels to be in depression. This is how it sometimes feels to be very anxious. This is how it feels sometimes to have those thoughts in your head. It goes into it with this story. So I want to just give that honorable mention to Omori, but my number 2 is Undertale.
Okay.
And I need not have to say much about it. Undertale is a very awesome game made by Toby Fox and was inspired by Earthbound. And you know what? Surprise, surprise. I love me my Earthbound inspired games. Undertale was being one of them because it was nothing like it to begin with. You befriend the monsters instead of fighting them. It gives you that moral dilemma of, do I befriend everybody? Do I take all of the oncoming abuse that is coming to befriend this person, or do I just kill him? And that's a very strong moral dilemma when you put it down. And of course, the game has its multiple endings with its pacifist run and its genocide run. I don't say the in the middle run, which is basically the normal run through, because you have to do the normal run through to get the pacifist side. That's a guaranteed thing.
True.
But
True.
I love that idea of a moral dilemma of you can befriend the monsters to you can be literally the darkest person in the world. It's that moral dilemma that helps you out. And Deltarune, if we ever get chapter 2, if we ever get chapter 2, Toby, please, I'm begging you.
It'll come out when No Game No Life Season 2 comes out.
Exactly. But I would like to continue Deltarune as well, because it was very promising as well. It was an updated version of the Undertale battle system, and honestly, I cannot complain about it. It was really good. The battle system was essentially like one of those old-time arcade games like Galaga or Space Invader that you had to dodge all the things, like a Toho Project type-esque battle system. And I was okay with this because you could still be level 1 throughout the game, which you have to be in the pacifist round, and you could still try and reason with your enemy. That's a really cool concept to have. And that's all I will say on the matter. Sage, take it away. You're number 2.
Oh, first off, Flowey is one of the most terrifying characters in that game. Just saying. My number 2 spot, and you actually mentioned it earlier because it is your number 3 spot, Hito. It is Chrono Trigger.
Hey.
Number 1, you've already said a lot about what Chrono Trigger is about. Number 2, the music is just phenomenal. Like, just the overall soundtrack is just absolutely phenomenal. And the story is so damn good. Like, I actually, it was one of those moments where I actually enjoy all the characters. But yeah, that's my number 2 spot.
All right.
Nice.
And now we're at our number 1s, which I guess I'll start this one off. Number 1 goes to Earthbound, the Mother series in general, as a whole. I didn't like Beginnings that much, but the Mother series in general is a beautiful series, okay? I will never ever deny any of the games as much as I want to deny Beginnings so badly. They upped their ante with Mother 2, and then Mother 3 was just story-wise, it made me cry so many times. Mother 3 will make me cry to this day. I will still play it sometime because I've already done Mothers 1 and 2 on stream. I will do 3 eventually because I have the cartridge to do it. The Mother series generally is one of the most wackiest of enemies, one of the most random of stories. It's really good. And there is a timeline behind it, but everything about it comes off as random and strange. And I like that type of genre when it comes to RPGs. I need something strange and crazy. When I brought up when I brought up that enemy that has the error 404 screen and bad dial-up, that was Omori. That was Omori. So I'm telling you this right now. If you give me some strange enemies to fight, like let's say a cup of coffee that's running all over the place, or a present that has like very sharp teeth, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm on drugs. Let's do this. I don't need it. I don't need it. We're good. I see a present. It's staring at me. It just growled at me. Keep it in a cage. It's my best series. I cannot deny any type of strange RPG with its strange creatures. I love Earthbound. I love the Mother series altogether. 1 annoyed me because of my trope that I hate, which is random encounters. 2 fix that with just the enemies chasing you down and having a chance to escape. And 3, chef's kiss, best trilogy. Give us Mother 3 in America, please. I don't want to use the fan translation. I want an actual, like, updated Mother 3. Okay? I can't keep holding.
You want an official nut.
Exactly. I want an official nut. Like, I'm tired of having the fan translation cart right here, okay? I need an official thing for the Switch. For, like, please, for the Switch at least. Thank you. That is my rant. We are good. Matt, you're one. You're one.
Well, we ended up, yeah, I was gonna say we ended up getting what was it?
What?
Fox.
Star Fox.
Star Fox. Star Fox 2 for the emulators. But who knows?
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. All right. My number one. Well, I think probably you can guess what it is because I mentioned it before and a bunch of times, and there's clips of it right up there, and it's not on the list yet. It's Persona 5. Boy, talk about a game that fucking integrated itself into my goddamn DNA and soul. I love Persona 5. I was a doubter at first. So let me explain my history with this game. I'm going to go into, because this is my number one, I'm going to be a little long with this, which I expect you all to be. Let me explain my history with this. I played Persona 3 back in 2012. I didn't like it. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I never got around to playing Persona 4, even to this very day. Persona 5 comes out in America in April of 2017. It goes bonkers. Everyone's crazy for it. I'm not mad or anything. I'm just like, oh, really? That game series I didn't like when I tried 5 years ago? Everyone doesn't stop talking about this game, even to this very day now. But everyone doesn't stop talking about this game until I eventually tried it in September of 2019. And I'm like, well, I'm eventually going to play this game one day because I love JRPGs. So this game better damn hold up to every single goddamn thing I've heard about it. And when I played in September of 2019, it does. And I'm like, okay, never mind, this game's the real deal. It does hold up to everything everyone's ever said. So what can I say about this game that hasn't been said up to this point, especially with every Persona fan, especially all the annoying ones, which I try not to be. Ever since I became a fan of this game, Silver, Mike, and Shell have not heard the end of it out of my mouth because they haven't played it. So what can I say about this game? Well, for one, I think one of the top things about it is the music. Now, the music is fantastic, like no fucking shit, duh. But the thing I noticed about the music is it encapsulates and captivates people that hasn't even played the game before. And Cell saying, "Yup." God damn it.
He's not even mad. We're not even mad with it. Still here, just been watching. But yes, I can vouch.
Yeah. And so the music captivates people that haven't even played the game before. I can even confer this with my favorite content creator of all time, Ray Narvaez Jr. He hasn't played the game, but when he goes on shiny hunts, when he streams Pokemon, he sometimes plays the Persona 5 album just because he likes it so much, and he's never even played the goddamn game. The music alone just captivates people. And of course, what else can we talk about? The captivating style of the game, the extremely artsy, captivating style of it. Look at it, it's right there now. You just saw it. The battle system is also really good and has a Pokemon-esque like mechanic with Joker's personas. The RPG mechanics are phenomenal, and of course the story, where every adult's a dick, and it really hits true home to life about how cruel the world can be and how you want to fight back against it. Absolutely phenomenal game. Oh boy, there's that. What more can I say? You can argue this is the most influential RPG of last decade.
And
You can argue because the JRPG of last decade. You can argue it's the most influential one because people still haven't stopped talking about it 4 years later after it came out, and it even just got a sequel too. Whew.
Yeah.
To this day, I actually have to agree with Matt because it is also my number one spot.
That's what I thought. I knew it was coming, homie.
Yep.
You should have.
Persona 5, yeah. Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal, to be exact.
Yeah, air quotes royal for me too.
Yes. Now, what I was going to say about, we was talking about the certain tropes of Persona, like the suicidal themes, for example. When I was talking about the other side of the coin when it comes to that, is because there's a scene in the early stages of Persona 5, Shiho, that's all I need to say, that made me absolutely I remember raging on stream. To the point where I flat out stopped for a second and I said, if you have anybody, I don't care who it is, but if you have anybody acting like this asshole, this comma shithead, I don't care if you're worried about getting fired or getting expelled, but tell somebody.
I will say this.
Because
I hate the fact that I've actually met someone like Kamoshida, and I hope he's rotting in prison.
yeah, there are that's why I get angry every single time, because there are dick bags like Kamoshida. They exist. They need to rot in the furthest pits of hell. And yes, I'm not being at all wholesome about it, which I know I'm wholesome a lot, but when it comes to this type of shit, I get passionate. So
Look how passionate about he look. He's so passionate about a character in the story. He's only talked about the story for. Look how passionate he is. This is true Persona 5 fans.
Yes.
Go on, homie.
Let me tell you this. There's a reason why the soundtrack, parts of the soundtrack is in my alerts on my stream. Like Rivers of the Desert plays anytime somebody drops me a follow for about 3 seconds or so. It's probably like 5 seconds, but still. But there's a reason why I freaking love this game, and I've played this game so much, like even off stream. Like
Same.
Highly recommend that. Get Persona 5 Royal if you want a great game to play, a great RPG.
All my friends, the friends I previously mentioned who are in chat, are probably going to all get PS5s one day. And since PS5 has perfect PS4 backwards compatibility, guess what game I'm going to shove down their throat?
Well, actually, Matt, there's actually a friend of ours who is playing Persona 5 right now for the first time.
Oh, who's that? Am I behind? Who?
Alex.
Oh, wait, Alex Normaki?
Alex.
Oh, she's live right now. She's live right now. Go figure.
It's funny that you called that, because that was actually going to be our raid target today.
Go figure.
I don't normally suggest raids, but I was actually going to go to Hito and say, hey, think we could give her some love.
Oh, absolutely. Since we're just talking about it, I was going to see if I could find an Earthbound streamer. Like, is anyone streaming Earthbound right now? And I'm like, no. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Like, okay. I'm like, since Persona 5 is wait, is she playing Royal or the original?
Yes,
Royal.
She's playing Royal.
She's doing correct. Okay, she's doing justice.
I could tell because she's bopping to the opening.
Yeah. Colors fly high.
Yeah, I could tell because she's literally bopping to the opening, and I love it.
So yeah, guys, thank you for joining me for today's podcast. We are gonna raid out to Alex Doramaki. Guys, any final thoughts on your list and everything else that goes on here?
I just want to say, Sage, it was a pleasure working with you today.
Dude, it's always a pleasure to see you, my friend. And like I said, anybody who has never played Persona 5, go out there, get it.
Hey.
Oh boy. Sorry, we're never gonna shut up about this game for the rest of our lives. It's literally that life.
Right.
It's literally that life changing.
I like the game too. Don't get me wrong.
Oh no, we know Persona. Look, it's fine, dude. We're not over being harsh on you. That's fine. You can put Persona 5 wherever you want.
Hello.
That's fine. You can do whatever you want. But as you can see, for us, for me and Sage, it was life changing.
It was life changing. It will always be life changing.
Futaba best girl. Just saying.
That's perfectly fine opinion. I love that.
All right.
Honestly, there's not a lot of like good. Well, the good characters in the game. There's not a lot of characters I hate in that game. Like good wise, not like the evil ones.
Yeah.
Like good wise, yeah, they're all well written. It's fucking good game.
Yep.
Like damn, that's gonna be the diamond standard I hold all JRPGs to now. I'm not expecting everyone to ever meet it, but this is the diamond standard of JRPGs. I'm telling Silver and Chet,
Yeah.
It's the most influential JRPG of last decade since it came out in 2017.
All right.
It's the most influential JRPG of last decade. No
It
cap.
is. All right, guys. So let's send out the raid to Alex Normaki. This is Hito Retro Gaming with Sage Hinata and MattBigFat sending all of you the 8-bit love. Let's roll the credits and then send the love to Alex Normaki. Have a good one, guys. I'm gonna mute myself for a second just so I could get the credits rolling. All right. So
I'm dabbing on camera until you ruin my camera.